This is going to be what Walt would say if he were still alive today, but this isn't what he actually said.
I can already hear it now. The critical bloggers calling him Woke Walt. Greetings and welcome to another exciting episode of the Why I Love Disney podcast. We are here, part 2, where we summon up the D23 events, and we are evaluating all of the exciting announcements that Disney, well, some exciting, some, maybe not as much, but we're here to talk about them. We just released an episode and worked on all of the media announcements, like all the movies and all the TV shows that were coming out, and I really enjoyed that. But now we move to kind of the bread and butter of this show. We're park fans here. We love the parks, and we want to know what's coming new to the parks. We've talked for a long time about Epic Universe opening up down the road, and I've been to Universal several times. How is Disney going to answer that? And here we are to talk about D23 was supposed to be the big announcement where they come out of the gate swinging and they show that they are on their toes and active and they're not reactive. So let me ask you first, fellas. First of all, great to see you again, David, Easton, as always.
Hey.
Now let me ask you right out of the gate. Did they, in your mind, just yes or no? No gray explaining, just a quick yes or no. Did they answer the Epic Universe question? Or have they stepped up to Epic Universe and have they said, we are Disney and we are here, you can never dethrone us? Did they do enough to make that happen?
Easton, do you want to go first?
Sure. Possibly.
Okay. That's not a yes or no, but I understand. That's, okay. David.
I don't think they gave as much as a whole new land. I don't mean a whole new park. I mean, I think they gave a lot of good things. Definitely gave some controversial things, and they also gave a lot of information. So yes, I think they gave a flood of information that felt like a whole lot of possibility. And then I think after the event takes place, people start finding out, we're going to lose this, and we're going to lose this, and we're going to lose this. So I think, one, they're calling it a huge expansion, and it's really a big replacement. They're really replacing a lot of things. They're not expanding. They're remodeling, and that's different than adding square footage.
I actually completely agree. I was going to answer the question, no, they did not, but with the caveat, they did not answer the Epic Universe thing, but the caveat is, Epic Universe is building something from nothing on an entirely new piece of land. So we're all getting something completely new, and we still get Universal, and we still get Islands of Adventure, we still get Volcano Bay, and there's this brand new thing we get to add value and go experience Universal also. This, I think possibly could bring people back to the park over and over again to experience these new things. But like you said, David, it's not like they're expanding into new territory and new land. They're just redoing some things. And so right. when new stuff's coming in, but then you find out that the other stuff's going out, then it's not as, it's interesting and could be awesome. It could be better. It could be, but we don't know, right?
Right.
And then you have to deal with all the construction while it's going on, and all the weirdness in the parks while old stuff's coming out and new stuff's coming in. I agree. Easton, I think possibly is a great way to answer that question. But for me, it wasn't clear that they've stepped up to Epic Universe, right?
Right. And they did give a lot of information. They did give a lot of changes, and so it sounds like a lot's going on. Of course, I think a lot of people said from the beginning, like, well, we'll see. I mean, because I think that's what most of us have. I mean, we've been told there was going to be a Main Street Theater, Opera House. We were told there was going to be, Epcot was going to get a Mary Poppins attraction. Just lots of things like that just fall off, to the wayside along the way. And so they could do, that could happen again. But several of the Disney media vloggers, people that have the inside scoop on things like Walt Disney World News Today, said that this stuff's also all supposed to be done in 5 years.
Wow.
So those were his words, and so that was the goal, was to have some of this stuff done by 2030, 2029. So, including Villainous, I wrote it down because I was like, wow, they said it. So.
Well, didn't it take them 5 years to just make Tron?
It did.
So,
And how long did Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind take?
It seemed to take forever.
Well, and again, you had COVID shutdowns, slowdowns, and so there is a little wiggle room for that. We'll give them a little bit of a break.
But that's also when Epic Universe took off too, and a lot of the work on it was taking off because everybody was comparing, like, look how much they're doing over there, and over here we can't get one thing finished.
There's an infrastructure thing too that's not completely fair. We were just in Rome this past summer, and we went to the Colosseum, right? And our tour guide said they built this entire 75,000 seat stadium in 8 years. And then he says, you see that little right out front? You see that subway station? It's still in construction. It's been in construction for 16 years. And we all laughed, and that tells you. But at the same time, you also have to avoid. Because there's things already there, so it's a little more difficult. So I do give them a bit of a break, but at the same time, it feels like it's just bogged down. Mm-hmm. And let me ask you this: we're going to go through this list of things they announced. So I see Shanghai Disneyland and Hong Kong Disneyland and Disneyland Paris got some things too. Are you kind of jealous sometimes that all those other parks around the world? It always seems like they're expanding with something amazing and awesome, and then in Disneyland and Disney World are just sort of like stuck, with it and bureaucratic red tape and slow. Does it feel like that to you, or is it just me?
Well, it feels like that for several reasons, because yes, they do get a lot of great things, and Disney World is the majority. Walt Disney World is their bread and butter. It is what is driving the income of the company more. That they don't make money from Shanghai.
Right.
I mean, from everything you can listen to online, they don't make money from Shanghai. They don't own Tokyo Disney.
Right.
So they don't make money from those like they do ours. So it is always amazing, how the others get things. Now, Tokyo Disney Sea and all that's owned by another company they're paying for those things, and so that's why they can do whatever they want. They kind of operate their parks a lot differently, and I've heard over and over and over what how amazing it is there, and how well kept everything is, and and they just opened that whole new area with the Frozen Land and Tangled and Peter Pan, and we haven't had anything like that. I was really kind of hoping for something a little more like that, that was on that scale, because that was like that's a true expansion to me, because you're getting a big land, and it had two Frozen attractions and Tangled things and a Peter Pan thing and Tinkerbell. That was a lot of stuff. Right. And so basically, a lot of what we're getting is we're taking these couple of things out and we're putting a couple of things in. Okay. So I definitely think that other parks get a lot of really cool things, and then they try to figure out how to incorporate the technology that the other parks paid for into our parks. So
yeah, that's interesting. But let's go ahead. Can we start with the stuff I'm jealous of around the world that's announced? And I'll get you guys. The Shanghai Disneyland, it looks like they're getting a new Spider-Man attraction. What do you know about this? And tell me why I should not be super jealous and sad that we can't ever have this in Florida.
Well, I actually don't know a whole lot about it other than what they really announced and a few things I've seen online. And I didn't look at it a lot because I was more focused on the things that were coming to Disneyland and Disney World, because I can't even imagine if I had a chance to get to one of the parks all the way around. We've been to Paris, but my next one would be Tokyo. So Shanghai, what they've got. It'll be a while before I get to see it. But I do think a Spider-Man roller coaster sounds amazing.
Yeah. And then in Hong Kong, they're doing a Spider-Man. I guess it's Easton. Tell me about that. What did you see on that?
Well, from what I could tell and from what I tried to look at, it looks like a Spider-Man attraction that's supposed to be kind of like Tower of Terror.
Oh, wow.
In Hong Kong, which sounds really, really fun. That kind of makes me think of at Universal, the Spider-Man attraction at Universal.
Yes.
Where you kind of fall through that sewer. That's kind of what it makes me think of. And if they do something, similar to that, it's going to be really awesome.
Yeah, I think it sucks for Disney that if you want a great Spider-Man ride in Florida, you have to go to Islands of Adventure, and it's a great ride. Like, it's legit a great ride. Well, that's both really cool. That was Shanghai and Hong Kong Disneyland. The Disneyland Paris looks like get some cool stuff too.
Yeah, that's a pretty big expansion, and they're going to get the first Lion King. I'm really glad that they went with Lion King and not not a repeat of the Star Wars lands, and that's going to be really nice. It looks like they're getting their own log flume. They've not had a Splash Mountain, so they're going to get something like that. But it's all going to be themed around Lion King, and that's pretty amazing. Cool. That it's taken 30 years to get a real Lion King attraction. I mean, we've had it's been there in little doses. There used to be something at Magic Kingdom. There's Festival of the Lion King at Animal Kingdom, but not a ride through attraction for one of the biggest movies they've ever done.
It's true.
So good to see that, and of course they're getting the Frozen Land and some other things. So
yeah, Disney again. I need to hit a Disneyland Paris here sometime soon. As well, I know y'all just came back. Now you have a reason to go back.
Yeah,
that's true. And one good thing again that was great about the Paris was that you can go and it's multi language. I mean, you're going to hear a lot of it French if you don't speak French, but there's a lot of English too. I'm not sure about Tokyo yet because it feels like a lot's in Japanese, and so you're like, I mean, if you don't, all the attractions are in Japanese, and in Paris it feels like they're all multilingual. Like you're hearing the story in both languages at the same time, and you can follow along regardless of what you speak. And so, but yeah, that's one of the great things. Paris was amazing. I loved it.
Awesome. Disney Cruise Line. I mean, dadgum.
Yeah.
A lot of
4 more ships.
Yeah, I wonder. I didn't follow yet where all those ships are where their ports are gonna be. If it's gonna be something that's overseas, that they're geared towards a certain market, because that's a lot of ships.
Yeah,
I was like, are the cruises that full? I don't know. We've done the cruise, and but it's been a long time.
Hercules show, A Tale of Moana on Disney Treasure. So they're actually announced some new shows on the cruise lines. And these must be profitable if they're literally upping their fleet by like 30%.
Yeah.
And kind of as fast as they can add more doing them. It's an interesting business to me, the cruise line business. And the clientele it attracts is also different. Everybody wants to do it, and some people have great experiences. Some people, don't. and it's like a certain type of, you know what I'm saying? Like, but it obviously is profitable, or they wouldn't be adding so much.
Yeah.
And they're obviously charging a premium because it's Disney. Any other cruise line with your family, is a certain price, and you look at the Disney cruise and it's maybe 2 to 3 times the price sometimes. So that's really interesting that they've added all that as well. Disneyland Resort, California. We're getting closer to home here. Let's go over the Disneyland. What are they getting that we are going to fly out to California to see here in the next 5 years, as they say?
Well, they said Tiana's Bayou Adventure would open on November 15th.
Okay.
They announced a new Walt Disney animatronic coming to Main Street to that area where the Moments with Mr. Lincoln is. That it's a show called A Magical Life, and the first Walt Disney animatronic. So that's apparently some of the Disney family is Diane Disney. I know did not want them to do that. Some other family members didn't, but I think one of Roy Disney's kids or grandkids has been for it. So we'll see. I think it's pretty neat. I'm just interested in what they're how it's gonna play out, and if it's gonna be great. Because I think if you're gonna they said, I've heard somebody say it's supposed to be the best animatronic they've ever done. Okay. And I think if you're gonna do him, it better be the best one you've ever done.
Okay, we've got the technology now to load in the AI, right? and actually just get all of his writings, all of his mannerisms, and just load it in and have him interact with people. Like, what if, David, you could go ask him, just talk to him about his life and ask him advice? Wouldn't that be amazing?
Well, that would be a pretty neat thing. I don't know that it'll be to that detail, but
it should be. I mean, imagine the line to go talk to Walt. You know what I mean? If he literally awesome. in real time, Walt, what was it like when you were putting together Snow White and putting that team together? The question you always wanted to ask. Now he's probably, it's going to lie to you and just make stuff up, but it still would be kind of cool, would it not?
Yeah. I was going to say the probably the biggest concern would be like, will they quote him correctly? Will they get the story straight? Things like that, because a lot of that stuff's well known, and so you got to. What will they pick? What will they have him say? What will he? Will he have a new point of view? This is going to be what Walt would say if he were still alive today, but this isn't what he actually said.
I can already hear it now. The critical bloggers calling him Walt woke Walt.
Well, that will be people's concern, which
made in the image of Bob Iger. Or what if it's an animatronic of Walt that Bob Iger's AI is in it? That would be a disaster. That's funny. That would be.
But
that is really cool. Yeah. Do you think it's something that will eventually be at Disney World, the world also, or
I haven't heard that. I think the other thing, the great moments with Mr. Lincoln is like stepping back in time. You're talking about something from the World's Fair of '64. Just a simple animatronic that stands up and gives a speech. But there is some historical. It's one of those things where you go, man. That would be, if it just went away, that's a sad piece of history to kind of go, this is where it started. Again, where we've talked about, like, it's not a museum, but in a way it is. Like, there's parts of it that are. And so, but apparently it's going to be in rotation with that. Like, I think first it'll be the Walt Disney Show for a while, but then they said it would be in rotation. So they were quick to come back and say, Mr. Lincoln's not going anywhere. Mr. Lincoln's not going anywhere. But
okay.
I think he is going to be going away. I don't think you can have it. In fact, I thought at first that they would go, because there's like a pre-show they could do. I thought, they're going to add this so that it's like a pre-show where Walt tells you about making Mr. Lincoln or something like that. I thought that might be what they were going to do, but it sounds like Walt's going to get his own show. The picture, he's sitting there in his TV office, like the old Disneyland show.
Yeah, and that's cool.
Like he's going to tell you about his vision for the park or something. So
that'd be. It's really imaginative and has a potential to be really great. So
I think cool. I think what I would like to see is if they're going to do it, let it just kind of to celebrate the parks even would be good. Like talk about because they say that there's a whole generation that thinks he's just a made up name.
Yeah,
that really don't know he's a real person. And they've not seen him. The company since Iger came in, they just don't utilize Walt. You don't see him anywhere. So this is a first like this that they've done, and so we'll see how it goes. I hope it's great.
Easton, what are the other Disneyland resort attractions that we're excited about?
You're going to be really excited about this. They're adding an Avatar land.
Oh, yes. Glad another park gets that.
No. Actually, they're adding they are adding that, but they're actually adding a Coco attraction.
Oh, that's cool.
That I think
I think that's probably coming to more parks in the future too.
Yeah, and this is all over at California Adventure.
Okay.
Not Magic Kingdom, but a Coco ride. I think everybody's been like going a Coco boat ride. What it's made for. That movie's made for a dark ride.
Yep.
And you just want. I hope it's just amazing. I hope it's just there's so much you can't even take it all in. There's so much to see.
They're going to put in a new Smuggler's Run mission featuring the Mandalorian and Grogu.
I think that's due for an update. I love that.
That's going to be pretty cool. The big one...
That's going to both parks, is right?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
I think so. The big one for me is they're adding 2 attractions to Avengers Campus.
Love it.
One is called Avengers Infinity Defense, which is just going to be like the storyline seems to be you're fighting Thanos again.
So what is that? What kind of ride is that? Do we know anything about it?
It looks like it's supposed to be kind of more like Peter Pan's Neverland Adventure.
That's right. That's the one from Tokyo. It's like a multi-person vehicle.
Yeah.
Kind of looks like a trackless type ride that moves around, and that ride's very screen-based. And so what the pictures we've seen, it makes you think that will probably be like a screen-based attraction to some level.
My question is: there shooting involved, and are there points involved?
I don't know.
That would be really cool.
The other thing people have compared it to, though, is the Spider-Man ride at Universal. Some people did compare the ride vehicle to that, so I kept going, well, wait a minute, the one at Disney at Tokyo, where the Peter Pan ride, that looks like that ride, but I'm not sure what the mechanism is, because I've heard it compared to both of those. And I was like, those aren't the same thing. They're different type rides. So
now, I did see the second one, a little bit on the second one. What is it, Easton?
So it is called Stark Flight Lab, and what's going to be, it looks like it's suspended, but I don't think it is, but it simulates you flying with all the flying superheroes. You go in and you meet Mr. Stark, who is going to be played by Robert Downey Jr. He's coming in to be Tony Stark again for this ride. And you go in and you kind of get in this flight simulator, and you get to fly with all the flying heroes, like Captain Marvel.
I feel like I saw either a rendering of this or a video of a test thing, and it looks like you're in the lab with Jarvis, and it's like it kind of, if what I saw was correct, you're in a vehicle much like Forbidden Journey.
It is.
And it kind of throws you around, kind of thing. And so you're in like a seat, a row with 4 people, and it's got an arm on the back of it, and it throws you around everywhere. Is that what you've seen, David?
Yeah, I think it's Kuka arm, is that what they call it? But that's what several people have reported that's the style, which is the same as Harry Potter.
It's going to be awesome. We'll make you dizzy a little bit, and we'll just hope I don't puke when I get off of it. But well worth it. If I do, well worth it.
Yeah, they said that, and they said that all this Avengers Campus will start in 2025, and that it will double the size of that area. Now that Infinity Defense attraction, that's been one that they, from the very beginning, they said an e-ticket ride was coming.
Okay.
So this is the one people have been waiting for, and they said it probably won't be as elaborate as something like Rise of Resistance. I think that was the original intent, but it will still be a big attraction.
Well, interesting. I think that list, we're already got a lot of lists. That's a lot of announcements. So this was a big thing. Now we get to the Disney World, the mothership, and let's go through some of these. I know they have a new nighttime parade, and some people get really excited about that. There's things, of course, like that. And I do find it interesting that they announce these things, and this is not, even though it's interesting to me, I always kind of skip past that, and I want to know about the rides. I want to know about, and sometimes the updates to the new restaurant, things like that are interesting. But let's talk about the big attractions at Walt Disney World. What's new and what are you excited about?
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk about this because it sounds like between the three of us, we're all kind of excited and not so excited about different things. So I am excited to talk about all this stuff. Just to start, the new refurbishment to Test Track, be named Test Track 3.0, is coming in 2025.
Yeah, I wonder what this is going to be. This one, they kind of teased that it was going to have nods to the original World of Motion, and I wonder what it's going to be like. I hope it's a whole new show and something really to see on the inside, because it's a lot of, you stand in line a long time for not a lot of show just to go outside and drive 65 miles an hour for a minute. So it's just a great thrill. Especially if you're a kid. But I know a lot of people that don't even ride it because it's like, man, it's just driving fast in a car, and I drive that. Yeah. I drive faster than that every day. It's not like a roller coaster. So I hope that it really goes up. I'm cautiously optimistic though, because a lot of times they'll say things like that. We're going to nods of this, and it's like, oh, there's not really.
Right.
But I'm glad it's opening back up because, man, it just feels like so many things are constantly in refurbishment lately. So
refurbishment there. Smuggler's Run also, like Disneyland, gets the Mandalorian and Grogu update. I think that's going to be a lot of fun and update that ride. That's exciting. We got a couple of lounge. They're really going to sell. They want to sell the alcohol apparently.
Yeah.
But Spaceship Earth is getting a lounge. Pirates of the Caribbean is getting a lounge. Have you seen renderings of this, and what are the ideas behind these two?
I think they showed some renderings. I didn't pay very much attention. I did wonder if that, when you come off Spaceship Earth, there's like a large area that used to have has games and things like that. I wonder is that where this is going? That you're coming out of Spaceship Earth into a lounge? But I didn't really see the pictures, so those things don't really matter to me. That's not. I'm not usually going just to sit and chill and hang out. I've got usually agendas at the park. I'm not looking for that, and so but. I mean, it does sell a lot, so they're going to go there.
Then we move to other attractions. Over in Animal Kingdom, there was some announcements made that look pretty interesting as well.
Yeah, some of the stuff we've been waiting for, we've known about. They had already told that Zootopia was going to replace the It's Tough to Be a Bug show in the Tree of Life. So that's supposed to be coming winter of 2025. So that should be in about a year or a little more than a year. And then the Tropical Americas coming in to replace Dinoland USA, which it really needed something. But I mean, it was just an area that you could see like that there wasn't a lot of movement in, like a lot of things that are getting replaced. So it all sounds kind of good, exciting. I think. It's sad to see something like Dinosaur go. I wasn't a huge fan of Dinosaur. I had ridden Indiana Jones at Disneyland first. And so when I rode Dinosaur the first time, I was underwhelmed. And my wife was too. Like we were like, man, this doesn't really compare. It shows you how you can, it's like a good movie. Sometimes you just miss it the first time. And then you come back, and then we're riding it with teenagers now. Because I think when we rode it the first time, our kids were little, and they were too young to ride. And so then when we ride it with teenagers, the whole story changes because we had a generation who was having a good time and love it, and they didn't have the reference of Indiana Jones. So then it becomes like this family ride that you really enjoy and you hate to see change, but. It's like a lot of things. It's gotten so worn down and things aren't working. And when I can ride, I'm not a Florida resident. So when I can go and I go, that's not moving, or that didn't work, and I can spot things like that didn't lunge at you anymore. I mean, and we've seen that's the way it was with Splash Mountain. Were just things that you were going, man, those effects don't work anymore. So at that point that it's. Somebody said it's just easier to gut it and redo than to fix it. And so to get Indiana Jones, I think people will like that a lot better. I mean, probably people that never even go to Dinosaur because they don't know what it is or they don't care about that. And
let me throw this too. I hate to keep doing this, but you have Animal Kingdom and you have this little dinosaur land. Literally, it's called Dinosaur Land, right?
Right.
And then right a couple miles down the road, there's Jurassic Park with multiple attractions and the most immersive experience you could possibly. If you want dinosaurs, maybe you should go down the road, right?
Right.
And again, you can't compete with that. I mean, if you are going to try to, you need a whole nother property. I think it's best, and from a strategic standpoint, just to gut it so we can all stop making fun of your little dino land compared to Jurassic Park.
And the show Dinosaur, it's one of those when you go in, it's on the Haunted Mansion,
right?
When you're in the stretching room,
yep.
And there's always that person in the room that wants to show that they know the whole spiel. By heart, and they keep repeating everything he's saying, the ghost host is saying. I've heard people do that a lot in Dinosaur. Like, people know Dr. Grant Seeker's pre-show down. I mean, and so it's not changed. It has like its own little legacy there. So it is a big change for something leaving that a lot of people will really love. And and will hate to see go. Now, I prefer the Indiana Jones ride to Dinosaur if I had to pick one, but this is not the same
that is
ride.
what's replacing it, right?
But it's not going to be the same one.
Okay.
It's a whole new show. It's a whole new story. It's a whole new setting. So it's not it'll still be the same ride. I mean, they're not changing the ride. It's like Splash Mountain. They're not changing the ride. They're just changing the sets.
See,
No, go ahead, Easton. Sorry.
well, I was just going to say I'm of the group of people who really hate to see Dinosaur go.
Really?
Because I love Dinosaur.
Yeah.
I love Dinosaur. And I guess it might also be because I can't compare it to the Indiana Jones ride because I've never been to Disneyland. So that may have something to do with it. But I know the movie really well, and it makes it a lot more fun to see those dinosaurs in quote unquote real life, even if they're animatronics that are static. So to me, it hurts my heart to see Dinosaur go, because that's kind of where my nostalgia lies as far as the rides on this list. Like compared to other things that are going to have to be removed, I'm most sad about that one.
Easton's referring to the 2000 movie called Dinosaur, which was one of Disney's early CGI animated features, and most people have never ever seen a dinosaur, and it really it's not right based on the movie. It's just the movie came out, and the story is that Eisner told them they had to call it Dinosaur. That it was, that's why now it's Countdown to Extinction, but it wasn't originally going to even be called that. It was just that Iger insisted, like he did Splash Mountain, it had to be called Splash because they had the Tom Hanks mermaid movie out at the time called Splash, and so he wanted that in the title. So, but it is for a lot of people it's going to be sad to see it go, and tough to be a bug. I mean, I love Zootopia, but I think Tough to Be a Bug is very underrated, and so for anytime you see the presence of for all the talk of IP coming into the park, and that people don't. There are a lot of people that don't like that. They don't like, but then again, it's like when we bump one IP out, like the old boyfriend or girlfriend, like we don't. You're not attractive anymore. Well, here comes the new IP. You're the 2.0 because you're not selling enough merch.
Well, this is where we're.
It's kind of sad.
Yeah, this is where we're heading too. This is going to be an ongoing discussion. The rest of this podcast is, I'm looking at this from the perspective of, I went to Disney a lot as a kid. So when something's not there that I rode over and over again, I think Delta Dream Flight, for instance, those things, I miss that stuff, right? But at the same time, right. I'm hopefully going to the park with my kids in November, and it'll be my three youngest kids' first times at the park. And if I make a list of priority things to see and do, again, or ask them to make a priority list, Dinosaur Land and how the bug thing, I can't remember Tough to Be a Bug. Are not going to make the list. But if there's an Encanto attraction in Indiana Jones, now we're like, oh, we got to go check this out, right? So you can just imagine like a new generation of people that don't even know what dinosaur is. Like, just it seems generic Dinosaur Land. They don't know it's tied to a movie,
right? But your guys would love Dinosaur at the same time. I mean, just like they're going to like Indiana Jones, you still like it because it's in the dark and there's dinosaurs coming after you. So. It's just unfamiliar,
right?
And I think that's the other thing that Disney has never been really thrill park like. It's never been like, here are the top scariest rides to go ride. Disney has historically been a lot about environment and show. It wasn't about which was the highest roller coaster, the biggest drop. It was about immersing you in an environment and making you feel like you'd gone to another country or another place or another environment. So, so those things, it's tough. It's tough. It's tough to see it go, and it's tough to see one IP go out. I wish that they could find a way to have nods to every IP. Like, we have. I always joke that poor Robin Hood, that movie. It gets one little the Friar's Nook over a little refreshment stand in Fantasyland, but at least it's still there after all these years. So you got a little bit of Robin Hood there. And there's just so many movies that don't even they don't even get mentioned.
I feel like,
and you never see it
totally. I feel like just to have those Easter eggs in there for those of us who know what it is. My kids, if you recognize the Robin Hood, like you said, then you're like, oh, let's go over here real quick. 'Cause it's kind of a neat niche thing that you'd love to see more in the parks. So what?
But then there'll be another attraction, say like Alice in Wonderland, that you'll see everywhere. And it's an older property, and you're always like, it's amazing how some things just get so many nods, and some things don't.
I'll tell you, what's interesting to me is Disney cannot get away with, this is another thing, they can't get away with some of the stuff that Universal can get away with. When you look at Universal, the attraction list, just go get a list of all the attractions in both parks, and then go Google the top grossing Universal movies of all time, and they will match up one for one. That's what it is. If a new one gets in there, that's going to get thing, and if this Jaws is out, then Jaws is out, right? And it's very formulaic, right. and you kind of see this happening. Disney, you would think they're maybe trying to do this, but it's much harder for them to do this because the parks happen first, right, before the big properties. Right. But I also think it's really interesting and really cool that you have a ride, Pirates of the Caribbean, that is turned into an amazing movie franchise, right? It's kind of worked backwards, and that's unique and kind of interesting as well.
I think that was a testament of how strong their storytelling was in that era. That Pirates was a movie. It was just right there in front of you. I mean, but they did take it. It was almost like they threw you into a movie that they eventually had to go ahead and put on the screen because they created an environment that was so people want to go into. They want to go see that movie because they've written it, and so now that's a big challenge to do that now in this era because people see something on the screen, they want to go there, and to flip it around the other way. I don't know that the creativity is there anymore to create something which is sad because it's just I don't know that they could do it again. I'm not sure. I'm sure it can be done by somebody. I'm just not sure that they have the vision for that right now.
What do we know about this Encanto attraction?
The Encanto attraction is a dark ride. It is, I believe it's an. Easton, didn't they say it was like an omnimover?
Yes.
Anyway, I think that's what it is. It wasn't a boat ride, but it said a dark ride through the casita, and I think it's going to be based on Antonio, who's the one who talks to animals, which I was glad that they brought that in because it was like from the beginning when they were even talking about replacing Dinoland, people were saying Moana. I was like, Moana. Like, why would we've got Africa, we've got Asia? Why would we not have South America? It just seems like that would be but they're not going to want to put animals in. But they could have done so much. Like you could have had some more South American animals. They could have done all the Central and South America and had Encanto. They could have had Emperor's New Groove. They could have had llamas.
Yeah, well, they're changing the name to Tropical Americas, which does include those things. Right. So,
well, no, it won't include Emperor's New Groove because that is definitely South America. That's going. You're talking more like the Guatemala, Colombia, Nicaragua. We're in that area. That's Tropical Americas, right?
Yes, but I mean, could you not continue to? What would you not see in there, right? Like. What's off limits? Well,
probably Emperor's New Groove.
If you can put a carousel in Tropical Americas and just drop in any Disney character you want, you could probably put in a little Emperor's New Groove.
Well, I think that was I like the idea of all these things sounded good, but when they start telling, you're going to go to this Tropical America's village where a man who loves Disney has crafted a hand-carved carousel. And I was like, there's a guy sitting in tropical America hand carving Disney characters. That just doesn't feel like Encanto. Like, I go Encanto. Is Encanto? Is that time? Are they aware of Disney characters? And then Indiana Jones is a little bit through the jungle. There's Indiana Jones. It sounds like a lot going on in this little part of the world. But anyway, hey, a carousel that my kids could, my kids were little, if they could have gotten on their, a favorite Disney character and run around a carousel, they would have loved it. But we'll see.
We'll see. Well, we're getting to the big ones now, and these are where they get more kind of amazing and jaw-dropping to some degree, and also more controversial as well. There is, I believe, a Monsters, Inc. land coming to Hollywood Studios. What do we know about that, and how excited are you about it?
I'm very excited. The big part of that whole land is the attraction that they're getting, which is the long awaited attraction that everyone wanted since the day the movie came out. Is an attraction based on the whole door sequence, going into the big area with all of the doors. I can't think of a single person you would ask them and they wouldn't be like, that'd be a really cool ride. And so they're finally putting that in.
It is interesting to me they're getting a whole land, David, for a property that's 20 years old. I mean, they did have the series. This came out, so apparently they're leaning into it.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing first was there were a couple of different rumors going around, which I think were very justified. So it wasn't like being. I can understand why people were confused, but there was a strong group that really believed that it was going in where Muppet Vision 3D and Star Tours and all that is, and I still wonder. Usually there's some truth to every rumor. I mean, there usually is, because things get leaked, and it's rarely somebody just making something up. But it wasn't going there. It's going over where the old animation building area was and all that, where they used to do animation, and when that was a part of the park and part of the tour. And so that's where it's actually going. So Muppet Vision 3D is saved for now. But man, there were people that were like so upset, and it's always interesting to see the different love come out for certain things. Like I love the Muppets, but there were some people who were distraught that I want this Monstropolis really bad, but I would rather have Muppet Vision 3D.
We want it all.
So, and I've never, we do. I think that's the sad part, is people do want it all. They don't really want things to go, and I think that's the biggest debate on all of this, is there's so much land. And somebody said, well, they're saving that land for later. It's like, why? Well, because it's cheaper. It's cheaper to build on top of something already than to expand. And call it, we replace this and then we'll call it an expansion. But it's not really. It's, no, you just took 5 things out and put 2 in. And so it's like, it's not. I don't call that an expansion. I'm still grateful to get some new things, but I think in this case, this is an area that's not being utilized for attractions. It's a different thing. So this is a great thing, and they say it's a big enough building that it holds it already. So I mean that means it moves quickly, and we might get it sooner than later.
That's cool.
I think
my thought is when it's an expansion, it increases park capacity. There's more rides that disperse the crowd different places, right? That's part of it, or more land, places to go and walk, and more space to explore. It sounds like Monsters Inc. actually kind of, even though it's an older, but it's an underutilized part, and it might fit the definition of an expansion technically, because it does those things. But I totally hear you, and I think with the next ones we're gonna. I also think this ride sounds incredible as well. So it'd be a lot of fun.
I also feel like, there's a lot of things they could do. There's so many of the properties that they've never done anything with Wall-E. There's things, but Monsters Inc. is just one of those. It is merchant. It has sold merch. It's been around. There's only one attraction at California Adventure. That's a dark ride. So and there's some overseas, but so to finally get this, I think it's one of those things. If you've heard it so much that if they did something else, if they said we're going to do a Wall-E roller coaster, people would be like, we wanted the Monsters Inc. I think it is. It's like, we got to do something, and this is what people have been asking for. A lot of the things on the list have been things people have wanted. A Coco ride. People have wanted a Villain's Land. People have all these things that people have talked about. So it feels like they're really grabbing at these things that people have been wanting.
Well, yeah, let's move to the big two, which are the biggest, I think, announcements, because they have to do with Walt Disney World Magic Kingdom changes, significant ones. Mm-hmm. So let's talk first about Cars Land. Is it a complete land built around cars? Like, what is happening? 2 new attractions that are coming. Tell me what you know about that. And are you excited about it?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you've been to Disneyland, Radiator Springs Racers, that is one of the best attractions ever. It really, really is. It's the test track system where you ride it. You're instead of one car though, you're in 2 cars and you're racing. But it's the whole dark ride. It's the environments and the sets and the animatronics of the cars, and you're in the show, and you're riding through Radiator. You're in the town in the dark ride part, and then you come out and you're in the movie. I mean, it is like you see scenes from the movie. And even in the outside attraction part, you're totally. It's one of the most best immersive things they've ever done by far. So, to get that in Florida would be really exciting. Even though a lot of people are going, please don't repeat things, because I guess people feel more mobile now that they can get to other parks eventually. But for most people, you're only probably going to get to the park that's nearest you. You're never going to get out to another park. Maybe you can get to Disneyland once or twice if you're on the East Coast, but most people have work and they have families and they have things to do
and budgets.
So I thought like, man, it's kind of good. That's such a good one to come. But I thought that about Tron, and then the response to Tron was kind of lackluster. People didn't really get as excited over Tron as they did over Guardians and some other things. So this is coming, but it's not the same thing. And I think it's a similar attraction, but this is all new. These are new characters, new. They're off-road vehicles. It's not Radiator Springs. It doesn't sound like you're going to be riding Lightning McQueen. It's a different thing, and so I don't know. I'll have to wait and see. I don't. One thing people really want is to be immersed in these movies. And then when they go, oh, well, we're going to not take you to the movie that we're going to create a new movie, which that used to be the way it worked. But now it always feels like it's like, oh, but it's not as good as the one in the movie. You've got a hit. Why would you rewrite? Why would you make up a new story? But that's what it sounds like it's going to be. We're going to off-road, and it's a different part of the country. It's not. I guess it's got to be further west or something than Radiator Springs. I'm not quite sure there, but that's what the pictures looked like. It was new characters. I think the bigger concern is that I assumed that when they said Cars, it was like, oh, because they keep talking about Beyond Thunder Mountain. And, so much about these parks is about sight lines and things blending in. You don't want to, they worked really hard in the day so that if you're over in Adventureland, you don't see the Contemporary Hotel. Like things are masked, things are blocked. You don't see the castle in places when you're in Adventureland. It's to give you that feeling of immersion. And so I assumed that, Radiator Springs is going behind Big Thunder because the mountains would look the same, the terrain, it would all blend in. It would fill with the flow because Frontierland's designed so that from Haunted Mansion, which is is the New York, to Pennsylvania, which is New England, to St. Louis and the Midwest, which is Tom Sawyer's Island and the Riverboat. Then you hit the Frontier part where you're moving further west, and you get out what used to be Splash Mountain and Thunder Mountain. You're just going farther west the whole time. You're moving west. You're going west. And so I thought, well, this is further west than Big Thunder Mountain, but it's instead they're putting it right there in the middle with where Tom Sawyer's Island and the Rivers of America are. So that's they're going to take out Rivers of America and the Riverboat and Tom Sawyer's Island, that whole area, and put it right there to the left of Haunted Mansion. So that's where it's going. And I think most people thought it was going behind. Now, it wouldn't have surprised me if they had taken part of Rivers of America, if they had to make it smaller, or even if Tom Sawyer's Island went away. But I was really surprised that they would take out the water and the water feature. There's just a lot about water and the environment that water creates, and it's a cooling feature to have in an area in a very hot park. So I was really sad to see that history. It's an original. The riverboat's in 1971. It wasn't opening day, but it opened pretty quickly, and it's still an opening year attraction. Tom Sawyer's Island, again, something that Walt, kind of designed the original one at Disneyland. And the Disneyland isn't Tom Sawyer's Island anymore. It's a pirate's lair now. So, it was the last of that. And I know it's not a story that people connect with anymore, and a lot of people find it problematic. And so it's, I knew its time was short, but I think I would rather the river stay there and the riverboat stay there, and it be Tiana's riverboat. Anything to kind of keep it, because there's a kinetic energy to the movement in the park, and that's what a lot has been lost. There were back in the day when you had even Tomorrowland, there was just so much more movement going on, and you had you see multiple attractions in movement at the same time, and that's one of the things that I was watching some old clips, an old TV show. Actually, it was one of the Wonderful World of Disney TV shows from the 70s. And they had all these performers from the 70s singing right there in Frontierland. And they purposely, you can tell, they've got the riverboat going back and forth, providing that kinetic energy. And there's people on the boat waving out. And it's like it's just a whole different energy that you don't get. And I think when that water is gone and it's just a path now, and you're just booking it to another area, I think a lot more is going to be lost. And I could talk about this way too long, but the other thing, that there were so many people that were so angry, and a lot of vloggers were so angry at the thought of Country Bear Jamboree going out. There was a rumor a couple of years ago that it was going to be a Toy Story, Woody's Roundup marionette type show, and it was going to replace it. And that apparently was really a strong thing that was going to happen. And there was enough uproar that, now we got a Country Bear Jamboree renovation. But I'm always amazed, like, that people would be that over an attraction, this can't go away. But then at the same time, that's the same group that's like, well, the riverboat, nobody rides it, it's got to go. Cars will be better. And it's like, this is going to change the whole feel of a whole area. I think it's like, man, it's like, couldn't we try something? Couldn't we have done something to Tom Sawyer's Island? I mean, surely if that's a great place to meet Tiana and Lewis and the whole gang it could have been a whole bayou area over there where you could have gone and met all those characters, and that would have been a huge draw. And those rafts would have been going like crazy back and forth. I mean, it just seems like there would be something we could do to keep it. And at that point, I think people would rather it stay and that have that kinetic energy than just to be gone. Now, would people have complained if they had changed it? Yes. But I would rather it get changed than any day than just be wiped off the face. And especially for something that, I'm just not sure. And I'm not sure that it fits there. It doesn't fit the story that those of us that have loved the parks for all these years, it just doesn't fit right. I think the old animators, the old Imagineers would be kind of rolling over in their graves, because it'd be like, what in the world? But all you can do is wait and see, because it doesn't sound like we're getting a vote. I do think the other thing, it was a little deceiving, and I thought to announce that and have everybody cheer and get excited at D23, and if they had announced that, if they had the guts to say, this is going where Rivers of America and Tom Sawyer's Island are, you would have seen the crowd go, what? You would have seen the crowd get a whole different attitude really fast. But they didn't, because they knew if they did that, people would have gotten very upset, and I think they would have gotten some negative criticism out loud. So they didn't do that. They didn't take the high road. They waited till the show was over. Then they said, "Oh, and by the way, for that to come, all this has to go." And so I thought, man, that's
okay.
That's pretty low.
So, correct me here. Where is this? We're talking about Cars Land there, and then Villains Land also. Where's Villains Land going to go?
I've seen multiple people report different things. I guess back behind. At one point, they were saying it was going to go behind. The entrance was going to be between Rivers of America and Tom Sawyer, and it was going to loop around over to Cars Land behind Big Thunder Mountain. That people have mapped it out in all different areas. There is a huge expansion pad behind Big Thunder Mountain. That's why everybody thought this is where Cars Land's going to go. They've had that was even for the River Expedition way back in the day. That's where that was going to go. They never built it because people wanted pirates instead. And so that was going to go back there. I understand there's a big expansion pad still in Tomorrowland where they could go out beyond that area. So they could have built Villains Land back there. I don't know how you'd get there, but I'm sure it's going to be somehow in this. And I've seen even somebody said it might be entering through Fantasyland now, that there were ways to get there through back there in the Belle area and the Beauty and the Beast area through past Gaston's Tavern. So there's a lot of ways they could do it. I've seen too many things to see for sure which one was the original, but it's going back. Can I
ask you a question? East, I want your comments on this too. You've been to the parks multiple times since I've been. When was the last visit where you went to Tom Sawyer's Island? Or you visited it?
I'll tell you this. I don't think I've ever been to Tom Sawyer's Island.
David, when's the last time you've been?
Last time.
Okay.
I do think on actually it was interesting when I went with John David last, when it was just the two of us. There were a couple of things like that. I go, no, you're going to go ride this. You're going to go ride this. We're going to go over there.
So you did it, but that's not a normal thing. Like, you know what I'm saying?
No, but the thing is, again, and he's college age and he loves Disney, but he is an attraction. I mean, yeah. he loves the roller coasters. He loves the big attractions, and so when he gets there, he's often we'll get really focused on maximizing our time and doing the things that we love the most times possible. But it's when you can pause for a second and go, no, we're going to go do this. And you just step back in time a minute, and your blood pressure goes down, and you ride through and you see, like, oh man, this is.
Did John David still enjoy climbing the fort and looking through the telescope?
Hey, I got some great pictures of him doing it when he's about 10. I love it. When he was elementary and that
going
age,
through the caves.
He loved doing all that, and the caves are still. I mean,
it's cool. It's cool.
You go over it. The caves now again. Can the caves handle? Those caves really handle the capacity? If they had a big draw over there, they couldn't do that. There'd be way too many people. You'd be in there back to back trying to get through that line. So in a way, that was one of the it's like we talked about in the movie. Some things just have a charm. That they're not a big ticket item. There's something just authentically warm about it, but it couldn't handle a big. When's
the last time you got on the riverboat?
We did that last time too. I mean,
how about that?
Yeah.
All right.
I usually will try to get it in just because I'm kind of always conscious that there's a good.
It's going to go.
It's going to go, and so you should do this and just remember.
Well,
and it will change the story. They'll do things, and every now and then I just want to go, oh yeah, that spiel got changed, and I bet I know why. Things will just get edited out and redone, and just like if you ride the train, when they took the train down, they revitalized the narration, and now there's some characters that come along the way that you hear their voices along on the path on the train that they didn't have. So there's always things, if you do them, you'll see things. And again, my kids, our family's gone to the park since they were little. So to go back and say, hey, I just want you to notice this because it could go away. I don't want you to miss out on this. So yes, I did make sure that my kids have done everything at least once so that they hopefully have a memory of it. I didn't get Easton on it the last time. I wish I had.
Well, I'll tell you, we're going in November. And again, it's different. If you live in Florida and you have a season pass, man, I actually do understand, hey, why are you changing it, whatever. But, if you're coming in and you're spending the money and you got a limited amount of time and you got a list of all 4 parks and all the can't miss attractions, we're probably not hitting Tom Sawyer Island and the riverboat,
right.
With my family this time. And that goes to the point of, if you're Disney and you got all this data on traffic flow to areas of your park and where attendance is, what's drawing people in and keeping people coming back. It was kind of a matter of time before we had to rethink these parts of the park a little bit.
Right.
I do think that if they're smart, they can figure out a way to minimize those sightline impacts you were talking about, of making it just not congruent. Or I feel like there's still ways to do that back in that corner, right?
Right.
It may not be as colonial looking, like you got Hall of Presidents and Haunted Mansion all and Liberty Square back that always kind of went together. But I feel like it's a hop, skip, and a jump, but within the realm, right, of a Villain's Land, and then cars right over there, right?
Right.
In the canyons. I'm kind of hopeful. I get what you're saying, David, and I do. Anytime you take old stuff out, when I say old stuff, nostalgic things that I grew up as a kid, even being a part of, I do understand why people would push back on that we get one thing and we have to take something else out. But I also think of all the things in the park, those are probably the least amount of draw left at this day and age.
Well, I would also say that nothing really has been attempted. Like, if you've got a riverboat that's that eats up it puts several hundred people on a boat going around for 10 minutes, and you can't figure out something for them to see along the trail that makes it worth their while. That's pretty poor. Showmanship. It's like, we couldn't put Pocahontas out there. Isn't there something that people are like, man, you need to go see that? That's pretty cool. I mean, it's other than, yes, you go back to the 1970s and it's a smaller world. And I mean, not literally the attraction, but people would get on something like that just to kind of relive their grandparents' era. So it's kind of, they were a little more familiar with that kind of stuff. It's like, oh man, we're going to ride a riverboat. And most kids now don't even know what a riverboat is. But that's just like, well, isn't there a way to do that where it doesn't have to feel like you're on, you got to go do this boring grandpa ride. This is so you get the history lesson. It's like, isn't there something they could have seen? Couldn't you? Yeah. Again, Lewis could have been the narrator. He could have been on the boat. You could have had I don't know. There could have been something. A Bayou Adventure, that could have been a fun thing. Anything to keep. Yeah, to me, it's more about keeping that kinetic energy of movement and water and a boat going by. It's just going to be a bunch of cars, vehicles. I don't know that I think it's going to be the same. I'm
casino.
Yeah.
They needed a casino. Yeah. That would have saved it.
Yep.
A dinner show, anything. They could have sold mint juleps. That's what they should have turned it into a bar, an adults only bar. Go around and have it.
There's the lounge. Yeah.
Go around and have a drink. That would have kept it afloat.
Let's talk about Villain's Land. There's some renderings. I'm pretty excited about this. If you go back, we've talked about this on this podcast before. Me, you, and John David actually blueprinted out what they should do with the Villain's Land. And if I'm being a little selfish here, when they announced it, and I look at the renderings, I'm like, they could go back to our podcast. I still think we have some great ideas.
I agree.
I'm pumped about Villain's Land, but what you've seen so far and what they've announced, does it meet your expectations? Are you optimistic and really hopeful and super excited, or David, is it lean you more in the curmudgeon route?
No, I think, hey, it's not necessarily the thing that I've always wanted. To me, it's mixing up IP. It's like, it's fine for a show like Fantasmic if you've got all these villains saying, hey, let's come together to defeat Mickey, but it feels a little more like House of Mouse to me. It's like that, mixing the characters behind the scenes like they're all part of the same cast. I mean, it's okay. It doesn't blow me away. but a lot of people really want it, and I think it could be really great. I would rather just when I'm, if I went to Maleficent's castle, that would be one thing. But if I met a Maleficent attraction and Cruella de Vil pops out, then I'm like, well, that's a mix of stories. I don't know. We'll have to see what they do. I do think that rendering, that artwork they put out, looks very blue sky. It looks very it just looks like this purple Maleficent land is what it looked like. It looks like Maleficent's castle up in the air. It looks like a wooden roller coaster or something like that. That's like a dragon roller coaster. So, we'll just have to wait and see. They didn't really give any concrete idea of what exactly it was going to be, or what the attractions are going to be, or if they'll be individual villains attractions, or if they'll all be in the same attraction. And so we'll just have to wait and see, because they didn't give any of that. They just said a land. So we didn't really get that. But again, when I heard that news, I went, well, that could be 2035. Like, who knows when that'll be. But several of at least one of the bigger vloggers that I follow what they do, they said it's all this is supposed to be done in 5 years.
Well, all of Epic Universe is 5 years, right? Like, they're getting a whole park done over there in a quick time.
Yeah,
so
and that, again,
it's doable. That
could be, again, it could be another reason why they can do all this a lot faster if they go on top of what they fill in the water with concrete and build. That might be faster than going out to an expansion pad that hasn't been touched. Maybe that's why it can all go faster, and I'm sure it's cheaper. I'm sure when it comes down to it, everything's about the budget, and this is it has to get something new. It's just cheaper to take something out and replace it than to expand. I'm sure that's the reason, but for the most people, they're just grateful to get an attraction that they really want to ride over the riverboat. So I knew it was coming. Hey, and for all of us that do like those moments and that kinetic energy, you can go do it at Disneyland. But it's a little piece of history going, and I do think it's going to change the environment a lot. I do think the story and that feeling of walking from era to era will be completely lost. And that's something that, I did tell my kids from the beginning, like, hey, watch this, you're here, now you're here. And, you walk through that, and it'll just all be, I think eventually Frontierland will be completely gone. I think it will all get rethemed. And, there's a lot of rumors that even not New Orleans Square, Liberty Square will get redone. And there have been people trying to get Hall of Presidents out forever. So, if those things, I don't know how they'll make it. It's just a changing expectation of what people go there for compared to what they used to go there for. Because you didn't go to Disney expecting Universal. You expected something different. But the public's opinions are changing. So they used to lead the public, and now the public is really leading them.
I think there is a lot to that too. They listen. There's pressure. At the same time, everything is so data driven now, right? And that's good and bad. When we go back, we complain a lot about Bob Chapek just using the data to milk every dime he can out of every customer. That's not always a good thing. Yet at the same time, you have to use it, right? You have to kind of look and see what's gonna move the needle in terms of bringing people to bring their vacation money back for a second and third time or a first time, right?
Right.
And I do feel I feel strongly that Universal has been kicking their butts in terms of people's perceived value. People's being listened to in feedback surveys and having things they want without as much controversy for whatever reason it is. And I think Disney, in a lot of ways, needs to listen to people a little bit more. But they also need to listen to some of their old fans too. Like some of the magic feels like has worn off over the last few years, and they need to get some of that back. Right. New stuff is great, but the little things too.
Right. And again, let me say before we go is that, again, I'm probably more passionate about this because we're talking about the Magic Kingdom. I mean, when you think about Hollywood Studios, it's had a huge overhaul. I mean, it's nothing. Right. It's nothing like the original park. For people that remember the old studio park, and you were like, it's like you were going to a real studio and taking tours, and you were seeing backstage. All that's gone. I mean, none of those shows are there. I mean, like this. I mean, it's completely changed. So again, stuff like that. A park like that's a newer park. It's like Universal to me. Like, I expect things to come and go and things to move out. There's just something different about a 50-year-old park that has nostalgia built in. And I think a lot of people feel that about Epcot. But, again, Epcot's had so much overhaul that, it doesn't feel the same. But Magic Kingdom's had that one little, it hasn't changed as much. They've added more than they've taken away. And so this one is a bigger blow to people, again, because it's changing history, whereas Hollywood Studios didn't feel like that. So
that makes a lot of sense. David. Honestly, I love sitting here listening to David, just sort of break it down, because you're so, you're kind of, we're all three different demographics here, right? That have different perspectives on this, and we grew up with Disney and engaging in different ways. And I think that's what makes this really interesting. But I love hearing both y'all's perspectives. I was surprised that Easton is upset about Dinosaur going at the Dinosaur. That was kind of shocking to me. But again, that's what we do here at Why I Love. We all have slightly different perspectives and reasons we love Disney.
Yeah, I'm sad that I didn't get Easton on the riverboat last time. I messed up. Sorry, Easton.
Let's go tomorrow and we'll ride the riverboats and.
I don't think you missed much, to be perfectly honest. I'm joking. It's not, Tom Sawyer Island. I used to, like, when I had a season pass, that would be like, I'd always stop by there and just chill. You know what I mean? Like, I really enjoyed it. It was interesting, really interesting and well done. So I will hate to see that go. But over time, things, you have to revitalize downtown sometimes, right? It just gets feeling a little old, and you got to update the colors, and you got to update the look a little bit, and you got to get the people, and you got to make the bucks, because that stock price is still dropping today. So anyhow,
it is interesting that with the announcements that the price did not go up.
Well, and again, it's partly you hear we're about to spend a whole bunch of money. And you're not sure what that return's going to be, right? How much they will gain off of these investments, and I think that might be some of the lack of clarity there. Of everybody like you, they're saying this sounds good, but what are we giving up, right?
Well, and you go, we're going to build a Villain's Land, and then the first thought is like, will it be good? Will it be good? You don't. It's not like, oh, this is going to be incredible. It's like, will it be? Will it be?
Yep.
I think that is the big. There's a doubt. There's just a hint of a doubt that didn't used to be there with people. So,
well, it's interesting. I love going through all this, and I do think by and large it is exciting. It's exciting times. There's new stuff coming, and it'll give new experiences that we can all go and visit in the future. And regardless, but we appreciate you sticking with us on these D23 announcements for the last 2 episodes. You can find us. We'd love to know what you think about these episodes. Are you going to miss the riverboat? Are you going to miss Tom Sawyer's Island? Are you excited about the expansions? Well, or quote unquote, the expansions of the parks? And what is your most exciting announcement that you've heard through this? Let us know. You can reach us at whyilovedisney.com and on our social media accounts. As always, we thank you for your time. Leave us a 5-star review. Tell a friend. And until next time, David, Easton, take care.
See you next time.